let's go fishing. People, when you're in the mood, let's go fishing. Well, it's just me and you. Head on down to the fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing when you're in the mood.
Canadian sport fishing has been brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, Conquer Outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Bait Cloud, bring the fish to you. Easy Docker, docking made easy. I like to consider myself a multi-species angler. Some people say, why would you go fishing for suckers? Because they're a different kind of fish. It's a unique fish. Why do you go catch sunfish? Because they're pretty, and you got to understand how to catch them and stuff. So I find it all a challenge. In the springtime, one of my favorite fish to go after are different species of panfish. And the reason we like to fish them in the spring, a lot of the regular seasons for some of the other game fish aren't open yet. But as soon as the ice is out, the big jumbo perch move into shallower water, and also the panfish like bluegill, pumpkinseed, rock bass, and especially crappie. And if you've ever eaten crappie, you know how good they taste. Not only do they taste good, but they can reach up to 15, 16 inches. So springtime is one of the easiest times to find them in shallower water. You know, here, oh, sorry about the water there.
That's all right.
Here we are, a couple of grown men playing with little fishes.
Yeah, you know, and it's still fun.
They're gorgeous. And that guy, even though he's got a tiny mouth, he inhaled that hellgrammite. Look at, he just swallowed the thing.
Oh, look at, I got one beelining at me right now.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'm gonna toss this guy back. Okay, you know what? I can't take this. There's just, I gotta
get
cast
back
right
in.
there, yeah. So what we're doing, this is really Josh's backyard. We're fishing the Kawartha Lakes. Got him. What are you? It's a
sunfish.
Yep. This week, I have the pleasure of fishing with my good friend Josh. Josh is also a multi-species angler. I've done most of my fishing with Josh on steelhead streams, catching steelhead in the spring. But he also is a tournament fisherman, he's a guide, he's a dad, and now he's teaching his son to fish. Well, on this particular outing, it's early spring and the water levels are high. And we even had a challenge getting the boat launched. We had to use those easy dockers to secure the boat to the dock because the water was higher than normal, had to put bumpers out. And then when we went into the bays, the weather got really nasty. It was windy, it was overcast. Normally, those bad conditions, especially a cold front, will move the panfish back out to deeper water. And our whole strategy was to find them in water anywhere from 1 to 5 feet depth. So we were looking for small back bays that were protected, and we finally found them. Nice crappie. It's so classic when that float slides down to the fish. Very nice fish. Now you say you get them up to 16 inches?
Yeah.
Same type of thing, fishing the shallow, skinny
Same
water
stuff.
like this?
Yep.
How often do you sight cast to them, as opposed to just casting blind in all directions?
Depends on the color of the water today.
You're heading in the right direction.
Today,
by the way.
yeah.
That's the release area. This cricket is quiet. You know, one of the things that really bother me, when there's a cricket somewhere in the garage in the house, you don't know where it is, and it starts singing and stuff. The reason I'm showing you a cricket, this cricket is made by Case Plastics. It's part of Fishing Complete. And believe it or not, crickets are an excellent bait, especially for panfish. As a matter of fact, in the States, you can buy cricket containers, the whole cricket's in, cricket food, all kinds of stuff. So crickets are very good to use, but this week, it's too early for crickets, so we weren't using any of the crickets, but they're very good to use in the summertime. What we were using was this thumper. I had really good luck. Actually, I caught my biggest crappie using the thumper that's made by Zipper Soft Plastics, and also their little worm. This is the case, the tiny worm. And I found that for the thumper, that if I just worked it in one spot, because of the tail action, the crappie would come up and grab it, and also some of the bigger pumpkin seed. But with the worm, they liked it moving. So I would cast out my rig, I'd shake it a couple times, my float in one spot, and then I retrieve it slowly, shake it, and keep retrieving it. So it's a worm that you could rig wacky, but for the crappie, I was just putting it on a very small 1/16 ounce jig head, and they were hitting it. They loved it. Especially with this tiny worm, the fish would come in and look at it, all the different species of panfish, but they wouldn't necessarily hit. As soon as I started pulling it away and moving it, that's when they would grab it. Closed captioning is brought to you by K100. We make water burn.
Do you need help?
I know, can you get in and grab him? He's huge. Okay, what's with the laugh?
Do you really want me to grab him?
No, I do not.
Okay, here.
I caught him.
I'll hold you. I
Thank
got
you,
you.
so don't fall in.
I
Have you got
one.
me?
I got one now.
Have you got?
That's a good
Okay,
one,
get
too.
him in. Look at this. Cute. You know what? Thanks for putting me on these fish.
No problem,
It's been a
buddy.
while since I've gotten into some good crappie. It's amazing. Get them up here. They're almost twins. You know, I'm home tomorrow. I haven't eaten crappie for years, eh?
Gonna have a fry?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So
What
look,
time's dinner?
You want to come over? I'm in Niagara. Eh?
That's a bit far.
Aren't they gorgeous? Look at
twin.
beautiful fish. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to take a tape measure, and because we've been getting these fish, and I'm kind of guessing at the length. This is the official. What's IGFA?
Dollar store?
They have an IGFA
Dollarama.
thing. End of sale. Yeah, you haven't seen them?
No.
End of aisle, I mean. Okay, how are we
we
going
got
to do
here?
this? So it's kind of, it's over 12. Here, can you hold on to my tape measure?
Yep.
Because I'm holding him right at the tail. Because we don't, you know, we want to be honest about this. He's 13 inches, okay? So
Okay.
that's a reasonable one. And this guy, I mean, to me, they're both eaters. Guys will keep a lot smaller ones.
That one's 12.
Hold on. Yeah, he's a 12. He's a Josh 12. Perfect. Okay, now this is, I don't want to lose this. A very valuable tape measure, okay? You know, when you're looking for bays that hold panfish in the springtime, you have to think silt bottom, cattail shorelines, and vegetation that's been uprooted or bog that's actually come up off the bottom. Those are the right ingredients for finding some of the best crappie areas. What I mean by crappie areas is really good fishing for crappie. So those fish will venture into very shallow water, as shallow as 1 foot deep. So this is where you have to have a boat that has a shallow draft. It helps to have an electric. You can row, but you can't use a big motor because that'll spook the fish. And you try to go way back, and it helps to have sunglasses on and to have good sky so you can actually spot the crappie, especially the crappie. Sometimes the pumpkin seed will school up and they'll be sitting right on the surface. This is what we were using earlier. This is actually called a Helgramite. That's what Josh is using in that color. And I'm putting on these zipper. These are called little fries. And it's a pretty bright color. So I can open the bag. My hands are all wet from the rain. Okay, so that's what we're using. So it's funny. Sometimes the natural colors will get them to feed. Okay, like this one here. Because this looks like some kind of invertebrate, you know, some kind of a nymph. This, I'm not sure what it looks like, but they'll grab it like that last one, just inhaled it. So sometimes it's really good to have a variety of colors. Size, small, under 2 inches. Normally we don't get a lot of big crappie, especially when they're in this shallow water on a larger grub.
The biggest thing to look for in these bays
Yep.
is dark bottom. The dark bottom heats up fastest, and then typically the north shore of any lake,
Yep.
that's where the ice goes out first. And these things will
point.
come right in as soon as the ice comes out, maybe a day or two later.
Yep. Josh, well done.
Hooked up again. This one's
Did he hit on the movement again when you were pulling it?
Yeah, this one's a lot smaller though. So this would be probably a little male chasing those big females that come in here. The bigger ones tend to be females.
Normally, dead vegetation is not really good for fishing because it uses up oxygen, whereas new green vegetation produces oxygen that attracts all kinds of food and bait fish and organisms to the area. But in the springtime, panfish like crappie and other panfish as well will go into the dead vegetation because they use it when they're spawning. So things like lily pad roots that are uprooted and float to the surface, and a lot of dead vegetation that have fallen down. It could be wild rice, it could be just dead weeds like milfoil and coontail that are on the bottom. That vegetation is really important in the spring to find those fish. Even wood that's along the bottom is one of the key areas where a lot of the panfish will go and spawn, much like bass, especially largemouth bass. So if you find a bay and it's all open, but then you spot that there's dead vegetation, or you visually see it, or you see it on your sonar if the water's a little discolored, or it's a little deeper, work towards it and start fishing it. Because usually the fish will be related to it, especially the big crappie. Look at all these things. Can you imagine a child? You have to be careful with the hooks, but he'd love to play with all these, look at wiggly stuff and everything. You know what? This is my box for panfish. By panfish, I mean perch, rock bass, bluegill, pumpkinseed, and crappie. And this time of the year, especially early in the spring, when the birds are just starting to sing, the leaves are just starting to come out, that's when crappies move into shallow water, and you can target them. And one of the best ways to catch them is using these soft grubs. Now, I've learned over the years that something that looks like an invertebrate, that means the aquatic stage of an airborne insect, like a mayfly, if you will, or a caddisfly, and so on, stonefly, works extremely well because the panfish, and especially crappie, at different time of the year really feed on them heavily. This one is called a helgies, and it's made by Lunker City. They come in different sizes. This is the smallest size. This is the natural color. This is like a dark color. The natural color has like a pearl belly. It actually catches a lot of fish. As a matter of fact, I lent a couple to Josh, and he started getting one fish after the other. And then he said, you know, can I have a bunch? And I go, well, I only have these, but I did share some with him, and that's what he caught most of his fish on. So all you do is you rig them on a small jig head, and this is the actual rod that I was using right here. So this is a 1/16 ounce jig head, and this particular one is made by Lunker City. So it's got the really good grub barb. I have it rigged so that the shiny side, the pearl side, is on the bottom, just like the belly, and that little bit darker color is on top. But you can see how lifelike it moves, whether it's these little legs on the side, and it's missing a few because of getting fish, or these two longer ones, the tail at the back. All you do is cast it out, let it sink down, and usually fish it suspended off the bottom. And then even when it's motionless, it actually moves around. There's a little bit of action, so it's not really motionless. But when you move it, it looks like a bug, underwater bug that's trying to get away. And a lot of times the fish will grab it and just swim away with it. So all you got to do is just ease back gently. You know, if you're using an ultralight rod, which most people do when they're fishing for panfish, and you'll get one fish after the other. And even though it's so soft, you can actually land a bunch of fish before you have to change the soft plastic. You can see this one has all kinds of tear marks, but it's still fine to use. So if you have a good selection of the helgies, you'll catch all kinds of fish. And the bigger helgie, up to 4 inches, is excellent for bass and walleye.
Is it?
Oh yeah. It's too bad that they only last a few weeks after the ice goes out, but it's okay. Otherwise it'd get pounded, right?
That's right.
That guy was hooked just in the roof of the mouth. You know, the potential of being 15, 16 inches. I know some guys that keep them that small, but these guys are nice to be released.
Oh, yeah.
In 2 years, they'll be good size. They can put on like 4 or 5 inches in a couple of years. There, you can see that grub with that tail. Look how limp it is. Look how short our lead is. So I'm still going with the set float. I'm just using a little bit of surgical tubing to hold it there. And this is, you know, our friend Wild Bill Selby. He loves to use these porcupine quill floats. I just find they're very hydrodynamic when you cast them out.
You know what else those quills are good for, Italo?
Toothpicks, skewers, I don't know, hair things.
Yeah.
Self-defense?
I was gonna take yours and pick my teeth with it.
No, use your own. You're not using mine. When you're dealing with skinny water, shallow water, you have to use a very delicate presentation. I think it's important to use the lightest line possible, 4 or 6 pound test. Try to use a clear line as opposed to one of the bright lines, and use an even lighter leader. We like to go with at least 4 pound test or even lighter. And if you do hook a large panfish like a crappie that's over 15 inches, you might want to use the net to land it because they're pretty heavy and they could break your leader. That means downsizing the jig head, so the standard anywhere from 1/32 ounce to 1/8 ounce maximum, depending how aggressive the fish are, and using grubs that are anywhere from 1 inch long to 2.5 inches long maximum. I'm glad that you're like a multi-species fisherman. Nice crappie.
So again,
Yep.
he wanted it moving.
Good. It's funny because we've been doing donuts around this area. Like, it's not a big spot.
No.
Nice fish. Ultralight just means a light action outfit that you can use thin line and that it's flexible. So I'm holding 2 of them up here. These are ultralights. They're both about 5 feet long. But I'm partial to ultralights that are a little bit stiffer because I find with some of the larger panfish, like when you get into crappie that are 15 inches or 16 inches, it's like cooking into a bass. And if your rod is too limp and flimsy, you're not going to get the hook into it, especially if you're using an artificial lure like we were today. We weren't using any bait. So wimpy rods are very good if you're using live bait, like worms or other types of live bait, because when you go to set the hook, the fish will hold on to it and just put more pressure on and you'll be able to hook it. But using the soft plastics, fish will grab it and then they'll let go of it. So it's got to be a little bit stiffer so that you actually set the hook and keep the pressure on, or you're going to lose the fish. And I tell people that they should be matching their rods, whether it's a light action rod like these, or whether it's a bigger rod, to the actual reel that they're using. And you know you've matched it properly if you can take your finger and balance it. So for both of these, if I take my fingers and put them at the foregrip, honest, you can see the wind is actually moving those. They're really balanced. You know, whether you're using a set bobber or a slip bobber, it's very important that the bobber is the right size, or the float, so that it's neutralized when it's sitting upright. So it doesn't take much for it to go under, because sometimes the panfish, especially if they're not that active, won't hit very hard. They don't rip at it and take off. And sometimes they'll go up to it and hit it. And if you notice that you're getting a lot of hits on your float, or your float's going under and popping back up, they're not committing themselves, try moving it a little bit quicker. Instead of fishing it in one spot, just vertically and shaking your float and shaking your grub, try slowly reeling it steadily so that your grub is not lifting too high, even in a foot of water, 2 feet of water. A lot of times those fish that are not committal, that are just snipping at it, will actually grab it when they think it's trying to get away from them. You ever wear your sunglasses at night?
I always wear my sunglasses.
So you wear your sunglasses
I wear my sunglasses at night.
You're having such a nice day.
So I can.
Okay, this one's going in the live well. 10 of these we threw back. This one's going in the live well.
That's a good one.
One of the easiest ways to catch panfish is to suspend a little plastic grub on a light jig head off the bottom. Sometimes it can be as shallow as a foot of water, especially early in the year when the water's cold, or it can be deeper, up to 8, 9, 10 feet, but usually not deeper than that. I find that you have to use a sensitive float to be able to see even a big fish strike if it's hitting lightly. So this isn't the time to use those round red and white balls, you know, the bobbers that you buy, because it takes a lot of pressure to pull them under. So this is the time to use very sensitive floats. 3 of these floats that I'm holding up are made out of balsa wood. You see this one's very light, this one's a little bit heavier, and this one's got an even bigger diameter, and it has a taller mast. So all these are designed to be used with like 1/16 ounce or 1/8 ounce jig heads. One of the most sensitive is a porcupine quill. So no porcupine was hurt in obtaining this quill. Okay, porcupine lose their quills, and there are actually farms in the States, especially in Texas, where they have African porcupines and they raise them domestically, and they harvest the quills when they drop them. So you can order these like on eBay and so on. So these porcupine quills, you gotta be careful because they're very sharp and it's almost like glass. Might be a live well fish.
That's a good one.
I think so. Good one. What we're trying to do here, Josh and I are storm warriors. This wind has really picked up again. It's like crazy. We've had sun, we've had rain. Maybe we'll let that one go. I got all excited that it was a live well fish.
That's a pretty good one, though.
It is, but we'll let it go. So what we're trying to do is get as much fishing as we can before this rain starts. Because the trees are like swaying.
Yeah, this is gonna get
like,
crazy.
It's like getting really rowdy out.
It might be turning the fish on, actually.
Well, I think it is, but it's just tough on us because we're trying to cast with this wind. Nice fish.
It doesn't take much for them to move out and come back in.
You know what, though? I've been doing what you said
Moving
about, yeah, watch, even with this raindrop. I don't know if there's going to be any more there. See if I can overcast you. Right to the point. Oh, that was on overcast.
Look.
Come on, get yours moved.
Oh,
You got him? Let's
mine.
see if I can get one. Cast right where I wanted to cast.
I got mine.
Good for you. There must be a whole slew of them there. Oh. Don't you fall in. What are you doing? Like, oh, quick, don't lose them. You can do it. You can do it. You need a net? Okay, go in if you have to.
Never give up!
No, never give up.
Never give up!
That's right. Did you see that? Did you see that? Oh, that was awesome. Canadian Sport Fishing has been brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, Conquer Outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Bait Cloud, bring the fish to you. Easy Docker, docking made easy.
Today we're sight fishing them because the water hasn't stained up as much yet.
Yep.
It's stained in here. It's definitely a lot more stained than the other bays we were in.
Yep. Good job, 1 for 1.
He wanted that movement.
Interesting. I'm glad that rain stopped.
Yes.
We're like
It's
2
a lot
seasons.
nicer.
Oh, yeah. We can see what we're doing now. So it really helps, you know, when you're fishing in shallow water. If you look down, you can actually see there's a lot of grass, but most of it is dead.